What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Counting down the minutes until we get our schedule release. And before we get there, I want to spend a little bit of time on a follow-up video to the video I posted yesterday, because I think it only makes sense to look at the other side of this. Although part of the reason why you look at the other side of this is to really shed light on how relevant that video that I made yesterday morning really is when you're talking about these Seahawks. So yesterday morning, I made a video, and if you haven't seen this video, you should probably go watch it first, talking about the players on the Seahawks that we expect to make a noticeable step up in ability and quality of play and production in 2026 from 2025. So now in this video, we're going to go the other way and do the opposite. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, and the point of this is to just kind of illustrate how only one part of the conversation seems like it's getting captured right now. People are talking about the Seahawks only in terms of the players they lost and the players they gained. I don't see a lot of conversation about the improvement or decline in the players that they still have from last season. So you look at this offense, for starters. Let's just go ahead and dive right in here. I listed several players yesterday that I would expect to be at least somewhat better in 2026 than they were in 2025. I talked about Sam Darnold. I talked about Rashid Shaheed. I talked about Torrey Horton. To a certain extent, Elijah Arroyo. I talked about Gray Zabel. Even guys like Sundell and Bradford are potentially going to take a step up. Like, you look at their career arcs, it would make some sense. And then I asked myself, okay, who on this offense is going to be worse? I think that there are two obvious ones, and one of them is kind of weird. Zach Charbonnet is one of them, but it's kind of weird because he's not probably going to play that much, right? The reason why we expect Charbonnet to be worse is that he's coming off a major injury. He won't play until midway through the season, and when he does get back, he probably won't do that much. But it doesn't really matter that much because we have made strides to replace him. And he's not even really going to get on the field as much as he would have if he was healthy. If he was healthy, I wouldn't expect any kind of a drop off from last year because honestly, last year, I know he got a lot of touchdowns, but I don't necessarily think he was playing great. So even that one doesn't really feel valid to me. To me, the one really is Cooper Kupp. To me, that's the obvious one. He's old. He stayed healthy last season. He did his thing. But I think we can very reasonably expect some slippage in 2026. First of all, I think it would behoove us to expect him to miss some games. Last year, he only missed one game, which was amazing. I don't know if we can expect that this year, and even if he does, he's just at the point in his career where he's probably going to become more of a part-time player and probably not going to be able to produce or play at the level that he did last year. The thing is, though, it may not really matter that much because this year we're going to have more Shaheed, hopefully, health permitting, more Horton, and even somebody like Elijah Arroyo being able to play more. Up is going to have less to do and less to worry about and less to think about. So when you really think about it, I don't even know if that impacts things. The thing that really impacts this offense is not the player, it's the coach. Going from Kubiak to Fleury, that is the thing that kind of weighs heavily on this team going into the 2026 season. But in terms of the players, I'm not really seeing the drop off. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. Like, don't get me wrong, JSN will probably not be as good just because he was so good last year. It's almost impossible for him to be that good again. So, yeah, JSN probably won't be one of the greatest receivers in NFL history this year, but I don't think there's going to be any, like, ability slippage. It's just going to be less numbers because more than anything else, Shaheed and Horton are going to take some of that. Charles Cross, he's not old. He's still young. Abe Lucas is still young. AJ Barner is still young as well. Like, these are not players that you would expect to slip in any noticeable way. Yes, the offensive coordinator situation could offset this, but even if you're looking at it as like an equation, I think the improvement from the players may end up offsetting a good chunk of the decline in our offensive coordinator spot. So, yeah, this is why I talk about this so much. I think people are overlooking this kind of stuff. Now, when you get to the defense, you can definitely find more players, right? Leonard Williams is at the point in his career where he probably won't be an all-pro caliber player for much longer, if at all. Jarran Reed is almost certainly going to... Although I will say Jarran Reed was not amazing last year anyway. He was decent, and he did miss some time with an injury, so it's not like he played every game last year. So you might be looking at a situation where Reed doesn't really slip that much because he's already made his age-related slip. And I do think that there is something to be said for the idea of, well, you've got Murphy and you've got Mills, and they're going to kind of offset that because those are two guys that you would expect would continue to get better. But I will admit, okay, Leonard Williams is one of the most important players on this team. If he slips at all, that's a big deal. And Jarran Reed, this is, I suspect, Jarran Reed's final year in the NFL. And then you've got DeMarcus Lawrence, who you should see some slippage from because age, again. He's getting to the point where you would just expect him to become more of a part-time player, maybe an early down guy. Uchenna Nwosu, right? Uchenna Nwosu. Now, he's not old. The thing with Uchenna Nwosu, though, is it kind of feels like his body is breaking down. And I've talked about this before. Most of his pass rush production came in the first, like, month and a half of his season. After a certain point, he was basically a non-factor as a pass rusher. And if that spills over into 2026, you're talking about a guy who's going to play the whole season and get you a couple sacks. So we're going to have to see what Nwosu does in 2026. I know that age is not the thing, but if last year's early season hot start by him was like the final gasp of his career as a high-level player, and he's now just a run defender and capable player, it would not shock me. And Fowler wasn't here last year, but he could slip from what he was last year in Dallas, I guess. It's not the same thing. And that's it. Like, you look at the secondary, most of the guys in the secondary are young. Like, D'Anthony Bell's old, I guess, but are we really going to talk about that? Maybe Julian Love, but Julian Love missed half the season last year anyway, so we didn't get a ton out of him them anyway. Jason Myers, he'll probably slip a little bit just because he was so good last year. It's hard to be that good again, but that's more of a random variance thing than anything else. And by the way, it doesn't have to happen. He could be really good again. It's possible. So yeah, there's a little bit more going on defense where you might be concerned. But at the same time, I'm looking at some of the stuff that I expect to come forward in a positive way, like Eman Worry, like maybe Drake Thomas, Byron Murphy. And overall, I don't feel like the drop-off is going to be overwhelming the improvements. I think that there's an opportunity for it all to cancel each other out, and we still have the same defensive play caller. We have the same defensive coordinator. We have the same pieces in general. I don't see a big drop-off here. Even with the players we lost, and I've already talked about this, but, Kobe Bryant. How much better was Kobe Bryant than Ty Okada last year? I think Kobe was a little bit better, but not radically so. I don't think we need to spend a ton of time like mourning the loss of Kobe Bryant when you're getting to replace him with Okada for 1/12 the cost. I think that the edge rusher room is a concern, But at the same time, it was not great last year, and you still won the Super Bowl, and you still got it done when you needed it. So, yeah, there's this whole other part of the conversation that people are not touching enough. This team was young last year. This team is still fairly young this year. This is a team full of players that should be better this year than they were last year. And that should cancel out, if that goes according to plan, that should cancel out some of the drop-off. To me, if you are thinking about this team in a negative sense, the main thing is just Brian Fleury. Fleury could end up being a problem, even if he ends up being good down the line. He has no experience doing this. And if he ends up being an anchor, then for at least one season, or at least most of this season, I won't be shocked. It won't shock me that much. But player-wise, I'm looking at this roster, and I'm like, I think we're going to be about as good as we were last year. Maybe overall a little bit better, because this offense should take a step forward to me in terms of players. All right, I'm going to see you guys later. Let me know what you guys think. Go Hawks. More schedule stuff coming out. Maybe I'll make a video later with leak stuff, but hopefully I'll be able to just make a video at about 5. Well, it won't get uploaded till like 5:20 or something, but yeah, let's see what the NFL has for us, and I will see you guys then. Go Hawks.